Okay, hope everybody's enjoying the weekend. Today is March 3rd, 2015. In this video, we're going to take a look at the market indices and also Apple, Facebook, and Twitter. So let's start off with the S&P 500. I got the weekly chart here on the S&P 500. As you can see, it's still trending up along this particular rising trend here. Even though, they got a little spook last week on the market, really not much have changed. As a matter of fact, we zoom in here, we could take a look at that on an intraday basis last week. It actually put in a new all-time high, and we could go into the daily. You can see that they actually came up and put in a new all-time high on intraday, but it closed down and closed with a outside candle, and kind of then it start this little pullback. And on Thursday we really got that little big flush day that kind of spooked a lot of people. But if we look at it on the near term, it's still tend to sort of holding up on this trend line here. And I wouldn't be surprised that we'll see that next week it will come up and possibly retest this all-time closing high, and even might even come up and test this all-time high here. Now also there's possible downside as well. I mean, not everything is just going to go up. If we take a look at on the 30-minute basis here, you can see that if you look closely, there's this a little bit of a inverted head and shoulder type of pattern here, and it's kind of broke out here and holding up here, and you see this trend line here. You also kind of broke this trend line when it get up above here, so kind of doing a little bit of a consolidation here, right? But again, if we take a look at it a little bit out of a little bit expanded, in a little bit more of a time span, you can see here if that that upswing here doesn't come up and take out these pivot high level and come up and possibly retest this previous high, then what we have here in the making is could be a head and shoulder pattern, right, that could take this thing down. And if we want to take a major move here on what that head and shoulder pattern might bring the potential price target, and if we come down and take a look at this on the 80% level here, you can see that here's this March low here, right? These pivot low here. So those are the possibility as well. And if we can't, if the S&P 500 cannot come up and take out some of these previous pivot high, then be careful and watch for the possibility of it retracing back and get below this 2077 level, and that will might form a potential head and shoulder pattern on the intraday. Then we could possibly see this this market might retract a little bit more. Okay, so take a look at the Dow Jones 30. Again, the Dow Jones 30, just like the S&P 500, it is still trending along this rising trend, even though that it kind of got a little bit of a spook. It did not make an intraday all-time high last week like the S&P 500, but it did put in a inside candle there on Friday. Right? So if we kind of zoom in on this, you can see here's that inside candle here. So next week I'd be looking for this thing to possibly break above this engulfing candle high and maybe make it up to these level here, right? These pivot level. Okay, and then working toward on testing this particular all-time high and this all-time closing high. Again, you can see that it is still rising on this trend line here. Okay, so and also if we go and take a look at the 30-minute intraday chart, similarly as the like the S&P 500, we see this inverted head and shoulder pattern on this 30-minute intraday chart, and it's trying to break through here. So it's a little bit different characteristic than the S&P 500. The S&P 500 kind of broke above it and kind of hold it, but right now this Dow Jones is kind of still under this particular trend line here. So next week I want to see kind of take out these this pivot high here, and then take out these guys. Then we could see the possibility of maybe coming back up and test the previous high. And similarly, just like the S&P 500, if it cannot take that, take out some of these pivot, then we could be looking at the possibility of a head and shoulder pattern as well then it might be coming down and we test these this March low here as well. So those are some of the possibilities that we have to bear in mind. Okay. And then we take a look at the NASDAQ 100. Let's go and take a look at the weekly on the NASDAQ. Again, it is still in this rising trend. This long-term rising trend here. And here's the longer one, and actually kind of got a little bit of a parabolic, but again, still holding up, and made a new multi-year high last week, even though the market kind of got a little bit of a little spooky for a while. But you can see that actually made an all-time, a multi-year high here before it start pulling back. And we go and take a look at the daily. You can see that this again, in an outside engulfing candle, got this little bit of a doji spinning top candle here that got this big gap. So you see this kind of pullback here, and it also put in a inside candle on Friday. So again, I'd be looking at the possibility for it to maybe break above this. If it breaks below this, then we'll probably have to worry about maybe a possibility of looking for it to come back down to these level and possibly testing these these pivot low. So we'll kind of keep an eye on that. And if we take a look at the 30-minute chart on the intraday to see, we see that here's that little bit of a resistance here. Okay, again, you might see that there is a little bit of an inverted head and shoulder pattern as well, right? Okay, right. So you can see that it broke out of that. So right now it's kind of have to take out this pivot high here, and here's this trend line coming down. So it's kind of bumping up against this trend line here on the intraday. So we kind of have to keep an eye on that also. Okay, so similarly, if it can't take out these pivot high, then look for it to come back down and possibly retest these pivot low here, this April low, and then possibly down here on these March pivot low. Okay. And then on the Russell 2000, let's take a look at the weekly Russell 2000. It too is still trending along this rising trend line, and it's holding about this particular baseline that it broke into a new all-time high. Last week it did not give a new all-time high. Matter of fact, it was one of the weakest index. You see this big candle coming down, and that's mostly due to the biotech sell-off. We see that there was this inside engulfing candle here that was actually coiling, and you can see that once it broke down, right, then it's kind of come down and really got a little big flush here. So I wouldn't be surprised that we might see a little bit more of a consolidation down here before the Russell 2000 try to make its way back up. So let's take a look at our daily. Even though we put in a little bit of a inside candle here on Friday, but it's not as strong as the other indexes. It's kind of on the lower third of this engulfing candle. But again, it's we're still looking at this rising trend line here. So as long as it hold this trend, or holding this this range of support here, I think that's still pretty positive. And if we could get this hold this this range here and get a bounce off of that, then we might see the Russell 2000 come back up and try to retest the previous high. Okay, so let's go and take a look at the look at Apple here. And Apple, after reported earning, it actually came up and made a new all-time high before it sold off. And you can see this is a big engulfing candle, this outside candle engulfing this little gap out, doji or spinning top doji type of candle here. And then it's kind of sold off. And originally, early in the week, we're thinking about that maybe a possibility of forming a cup and handle, right? A cup and handle pattern that could break. And also the other thing is because we're looking at this particular retracement here on this Fibonacci or this swing here. So for this cup and handle, this handle would basically retrace down to somewhere around the 50% and then come up. Okay, so that would be our ideal, sort of cup and handle, that you have this handle, come down, maybe retrace 1/3 of the swing of the cup, or at most 1/2. But right now, if we take a look at it, it's sort of retraced more than 2/3 of this swing move. So now it's no longer a cup and handle pattern. But if you want to look at it that way, you could also interpret it that way as well, because it really doesn't matter what we call it. It's the price action that really matter. So right now it seems like it's more of a ascending triangle here. If we take a look at this right here, so you can see that it's sort of like making a ascending triangle with these two, these pivot point here. Okay, so if this break and if we try to do a little bit major move, so it's maybe like a little bit of a flag, like a bull flag, and if we do a major move and try to see what that, what that projected target is, right, then we could see that there's that 142 on a 618 major move. Okay, and that's 147 on the 80% move. And look at this, right? So we got confluence on this Fibonacci retracement as well on this 121. This 127 extension here, which is also sitting about 141. So if Apple could break above this 135 level, the previous high, then there's a good chance that it will come up and tag this 141 level, somewhere in that 141, 142. Okay. And then let's take a look at Facebook. Facebook also kind of got some pressure after it released earnings, a little bit over a week ago. So you can see that here, it failed to make it to the previous high after the earning report. And again, you see this big engulfing candle, outside candle, is kind of reversed and sold off. So right now, it even took out this, this particular support level here, somewhere around the 82. So it seems like it might be coming down and test these, these level here before it might be able to, maybe make a bounce or so. Because right now it still seems to be, holding above this trend line. So even though it come down to somewhere around the 78, 77, it's still, within this support level here. So we might be seeing a little bit more downside pressure on Facebook before it actually get a little bit of a bounce. Okay, and the one that really got clobbered was Twitter. And when Twitter reported earning, actually the earning was kind of leaked out early due to some idiot, did a early release, and it really sold off. And right now it seems like it is still trying to find level of support, because if we take a look at it here, so it seems to be holding this trend line here, but I wouldn't be surprised that it might come down and actually, maybe come down to test this level somewhere near this 35. So what I'm looking at is the possibility of support somewhere around, these level here. Okay, it might come down and test these level for potential support if we don't see it, consolidate above this trend line. If it breaks this trend line, and then I'll probably be looking at the next level for it to try to make a stand, is maybe down here at this 35 level, between 36 and 35, because it's really getting clobbered, and there's some great damage that's being done, and it's going to take a little time for it to repair itself. So, and if we want to take a look at this particular trend line here, just drop right to it. So there wasn't any test of support at these level here, or even at this level. So certainly Twitter is the one to kind of stay away right now, and just wait for it to sort of regroup and form a base before look for any possibility of going long. So that's it for now. So hopefully you enjoy the rest of the weekend.